Welcome back to the System Read podcast. Sarah, we are finally diving into the definitive firmware upgrade for the human operating system. Keith Ferrazzi's Never Eat Alone. I've been looking forward to this because Ferrazzi doesn't just give you a contact list, he gives you a philosophy of interdependence. He argues that in a hyper-connected world, your social capital is the only currency that doesn't devalue. Success isn't a solo climb, it's a team sport.
Marcus, I knew you'd love the system aspect of this. But honestly, as I was reading, I kept seeing the networking jerk Ferrazzi himself warns us about. The one with a martini in one hand and a stack of business cards in the other, eyes already darting to find a bigger fish while you're still talking. He calls it connecting, but to me, it feels like the commodification of friendship. Are we building genuine relationships, or are we just building a more efficient, human-powered machine for our own advancement?
That's the exact misconception he's trying to dismantle. He's very clear. If you're schmoozing or card counting, you've already lost. The system only works if it's built on care and generosity. He sees business as a human enterprise, not a set of spreadsheets. Think about it. The organization man of the 1950s is dead. We're all free agents now, and your network is your only real job security.
Is it security, or is it exhaustion? Ferrazzi talks about having 5,000 people in his Palm Pilot who will answer his call. Marcus, that's not a community, that's a database. In the era of LinkedIn and X, where we're already suffering from context collapse, do we really need a manual on how to ping people every month just to stay front and center in their mental Rolodex? It feels like he's teaching us how to be the world's most polite spam bots.
Polite spam bots. I like that. But look at his core rule. Give before you ask. He calls it social arbitrage. It's about being a switchboard for other people's success. When you meet someone, you shouldn't be thinking, how can they help me? But how can I help them? If I use my network to find you a better doctor or help your kid get an internship, that's not transactional. It's life bonding.
Okay, I'll grant you that the health, wealth, and children chapter is psychologically insightful. He identifies that helping someone with their most intimate needs creates deep loyalty. But here's my skepticism. Can authentic generosity survive professional ambition? When Ferrazzi clones a dinner party to maximize his time, inviting 3 different people who don't know each other just so he can triple his active working day, is he being a good host or a master of efficiency?
He's being a systems optimizer. Why should those 3 people not know each other? The value of a network grows proportional to the square of its users. That's Metcalfe's law. By bringing different worlds together, the artist, the CEO, the politician, he's creating a catalytic moment. It's miracle grow for networks. It's about making the pie bigger for everyone, not just fighting over your slice.
Right, the pie gets bigger. But only if you're already at the table. Let's talk about the digital age of networking. Ferrazzi's world of conference commandos and anchor tenants feels very 2005. Today, we have AI-generated LinkedIn outreach and personal branding that feels like a full-time job. Is building relationships easier now, or have we just made it more superficial? When everyone is broadcasting their brand, who is actually listening?
Actually, I think his advice is more relevant now because of that noise. He talks about being a person of content, having a unique point of view. In the creator economy, that's everything. You can't just be a generalist. You have to be the go-to guy for a specific expertise. Whether it's through a blog or a niche online community, you're connecting the dots that others aren't seeing.
But what about the introverts, Marcus? Ferrazzi's father told him it never hurts to ask, and he uses that to justify cold calling Nike's Phil Knight on a bus. For many people, that kind of audacity is physically painful. Can you build a powerful network without pretending to be a high-energy extrovert? He suggests getting therapy to overcome shyness, which feels a bit extreme.
He acknowledges the fear is normal. He says it beats out death as the thing we dread most. But his system is actually perfect for introverts because it's based on homework and preparation. He doesn't say, go into a room and shout. He says, find a role model, learn to speak, and do your homework before the meeting. If you know the CEO ran a marathon, you're not making small talk. You're bonding over shared passions.
But doing your homework can quickly turn into stalking. He literally scouts which rooms VIPs are in and arranges his schedule to bump into them. It's calculated serendipity. And that leads me to the success beyond talent argument. Marcus. He admits that the very successful people he knows are not especially talented or charming. They just have the right club. Doesn't this just reinforce inequality and insider advantage?
No, it's the opposite. He was a caddy from a working-class family who felt excluded from the old boys network. He realized the rich get richer because they help each other, and he decided to learn the rules of the game so anyone could become a member of the club. He's giving the caddies the tools to talk to the McKennas of the world. It's about access, not birthright.
Rules of the game. That's the part that sticks in my throat. If success is mostly about who knows you, then what happens to the person who is brilliant but just wants to do their work in peace? Ferrazzi says, invisibility is a fate far worse than failure. That is a terrifying psychological burden to place on people. It means you can never stop pinging, never stop positioning, and you can never eat alone.
Sarah, he's not saying you can't have a private life. He's saying balance is BS. Because when your life is filled with people you care about and who care for you, work is life. He found his blue flame, that convergence of mission and passion. When you're living in your blue flame, you're not networking. You're stitching together a quilt of relationships that give your life meaning.
The quilt metaphor is lovely, but let's look at the reality of his personal branding message. He spent years wearing bow ties just to be the guy with the bow tie. That's performative. He even had a personal board of advisors help him decide if he should be a CEO or a minister. It feels like every human interaction in his life is vetted for its strategic value.
It's not strategic value, it's accountability. We all need a board of advisors, friends who will hold us to our own goals. Success is a human enterprise. Even the Dalai Lama uses powerful content and storytelling to move people to his cause. If you have a mission, whether it's finding a cure for cancer or just building a better bag company, you owe it to that mission to be visible.
I love how you brought the Dalai Lama into a discussion about bag manufacturers. But it brings us to the final philosophical clash. Is this book a guide to authentic connection? Or is it just the world's most polite networking manual? Marcus, he admits his early ambition was unquenchable and alienated a lot of people. He had to be told by a coach that his office was a shrine to himself, with no pictures of his team.
Exactly. And he learned from it. That's the growth arc. He realized that power used to be about a monopoly of information, but today it's about social arbitrage, the constant and open exchange of favors and intelligence. He went from being a networking jerk to someone who realized that your legacy isn't your title, but the people who will answer your call when you have nothing left to offer but care.
You know, I was moved by the story of him calling his former headmaster, Mr. Pigeon, in the middle of the night when a political campaign he was on ran out of money. Mr. Pigeon didn't ask for a value proposition. He just opened his Rolodex and made calls because of a relationship built on trust over years. That is genuine. But for every Mr. Pigeon, there's a Hollywood David who wouldn't share a contact because he was hoarding his relational equity.
And look what happened to Hollywood David. 10 years later, no one has heard from him. Hoarding equity leads to a dead end. Generosity leads to abundance. Ferrazzi's firmware upgrade is realizing that the more you give away, your knowledge, your time, your contacts, the more you actually have. It's a career karma.
But Marcus, it's a karma that assumes you have knowledge, time, and contacts to give. What about the entry-level worker who is drowning in spreadsheets, just like Ferrazzi was at Deloitte? He says, contribution is miracle grow for networks. But what if you're just trying to survive?
He has an answer for that too. He says, knowledge is free. It's in books, articles, and the internet. You can become a knowledge broker just by distilling a new business book into a big idea of the month email for your network. You don't need money to be helpful. You just need to be thoughtful.
Thoughtful or relentless? He talks about pinging people in his car, in the cab, even in the bathroom. Marcus, that's not a lifestyle I want to emulate. I want to be able to eat alone and just be. Is there room in Ferrazzi's system for silence?
He actually went on a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat. 10 days of absolute silence. It was the first shot in his revolution. He realized that happiness has nothing to do with how much money we made, and that the only place to find real peace is within. But even then, he came back and said his mission was still relationships, because you can't get there alone.
So, the final verdict. Is success mostly about what you know or who knows you? Marcus, Ron Burt's research in the book says it's both. Who you know determines how effectively you can apply what you know. But it still feels like the human factor is being gamed.
I see it as honoring the human factor. We're social beings. We survive in dependence on others. Ferrazzi isn't telling us to game people. He's telling us to stop pretending we're rugged individuals who don't need help. He's giving us a system for mutual dependence.
Maybe. I still worry that Never Eat Alone becomes a Never Be Authentic manual for people who are afraid of being invisible. But I'll admit, the idea of a personal board of advisors who will tell you when you're being a jerk is a system I can get behind.
And that's the systems read goal, Sarah. We're each other's board of advisors. Ferrazzi's book might be 20 years old, but in the age of AI and remote work, his message that business is a human enterprise is the only competitive advantage that's actually future-proof.
Fine. I'll keep my Johari window a little more open next time we have a guest on the podcast. But don't expect me to start wearing bow ties.
Deal. No bow ties. But I am inviting you to dinner on Thursday, and I'm bringing an anchor tenant.
Thank you for listening to this discussion on the System Read podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button and subscribe to ensure you don't miss our upcoming deep dives.